First of all, if you're watching this on the day of release, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. I appreciate you so much for tuning in. I hope you have a wonderful rest of 2025, and I hope to see you right back here for more stories in 2026. Let's go ahead and begin. I should have known something was wrong the moment I touched the wrapping paper. It was Christmas morning, and I was back home in Midland for the first time in 6 months. My mum had made her famous cinnamon rolls. The house smelled like pine and coffee, and my little sister Lily was bouncing around the living room like she was 8 instead of 19. Everything was exactly how it was supposed to be. My dad handed me the first present with a smile. "From your mother," he said. The box was wrapped in red paper with little snowflakes on it. I remember thinking how Mum always picked the cheerful wrapping paper, the kind that looked like it came straight out of a Hallmark movie. I took it from him and started peeling back the tape. That's when it happened. The second my fingers touched the paper, something crashed into my brain. It wasn't a thought or a daydream. It was a memory. A complete, fully formed memory of a childhood I never had. In this memory, I was 12 years old, sitting in a different living room in a different house. The walls were green instead of beige. There was no Christmas tree. I was alone, reading a book on a couch I'd never seen before. But I could feel the fabric under my legs. I could smell the dust in the air. I could remember the title of the book, even though I'd never read it in my life. Most importantly, in this memory, I was an only child. Lily didn't exist. I could remember years of being alone, eating dinner at a table with just my parents, playing in the backyard by myself, wanting a brother or sister and never getting one. The memories had weight to them, substance. They felt as real as anything that had actually happened to me. "Garrett, you okay?" I blinked. My dad was staring at me with concern. The memory was already fading, slipping away like water through my fingers. I looked down at the present in my hands. Inside the wrapping was a framed photo of our family cabin up in the mountains. "Yeah," I said, my voice coming out weird. "Yeah, I'm fine. Just spaced out for a second." Lily laughed from her spot on the floor. "Too much eggnog last night?" I forced a smile. "Probably." But my hands were shaking as I set the frame down. What the hell was that? It had felt so real. For those few seconds, I had genuinely remembered growing up as an only child. I could still feel the echo of those memories in my head, like a song you can't quite recall, but know you've heard before. "My turn." Lily grabbed a present from under the tree, and the moment passed. I tried to focus on watching her open her gifts, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was deeply wrong. I kept glancing at the pile of presents with my name on them, and each time a little spark of dread went through my chest. "Garrett, come on, open another one." My mum pushed a box toward me. "This one's from your father." I didn't want to touch it, but everyone was watching me, waiting, and I couldn't explain why I was suddenly afraid of a Christmas present. So I picked it up. The moment my skin made contact with the wrapping paper, another memory slammed into me. This one was worse. I was 15, sitting in a lawyer's office. My mum was on one side of me, my dad on the other, and they weren't looking at each other. The lawyer was explaining custody arrangements. I could remember the exact pattern on the carpet. I could remember the nameplate on the lawyer's desk. I could remember the feeling in my gut, that sick understanding that my family was breaking apart. In this memory, my parents had divorced when I was 10. I had spent the next 5 years bouncing between houses, between lives. I remembered awkward weekends at my dad's apartment. I remembered my mum crying when she thought I couldn't hear. I remembered feeling like I'd somehow caused it, like if I'd just been better, they would have stayed together. The memories kept coming. Different schools, different friends, a different version of my entire teenage years. And it all felt real, not like a fantasy or imagination, like something that had actually happened to me. Garrett! I jerked back to reality. My mum was holding my arm, looking scared. Honey, what's wrong? You're crying. I touched my face. My cheeks were wet. The memory was fading again, but slower this time. I could still feel the weight of it, the years of split custody and broken family dinners. I'm okay, I said, but my voice cracked. I don't know. I felt weird for a second. Maybe you should lie down, my dad suggested. You look pale. No, I'm fine, really. I wiped my face and looked down at the present. It was a sweater, just a normal blue sweater. Thank you. It's great. But I set it aside quickly, not wanting to touch it any longer than I had to. Lily was watching me with worried eyes. Are you sure you're okay? Yeah, just felt emotional for a second. You know how Christmas is. She didn't look convinced, but she let it go. I excused myself to the bathroom and splashed cold water on my face. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. My eyes were red, and I looked like I hadn't slept in days. What was happening to me? Those memories, they weren't real. They couldn't be real. My parents never got divorced. I wasn't an only child. But I could still remember both of those lives with perfect clarity. I could remember things that never happened as clearly as I remembered my actual childhood. I pressed my palms against the sink and tried to breathe. Maybe I was having some kind of breakdown. Maybe the stress of work, of being away from home, had finally caught up to me. That had to be it. Just stress. Just my brain misfiring. When I came back to the living room, Lily was holding a present out to me. I got you something special, she said, smiling. Open it next. Every part of me wanted to say no, wanted to make an excuse and leave the room. But she was looking at me with so much excitement, and I couldn't break her heart on Christmas morning. I took the present from her hands. The memory that came this time nearly broke me. I was at a funeral. I was 17, and I was staring down at Lily's body in a casket. She was 12 in this memory, and she died in a car accident 2 weeks before Christmas. I could remember every detail. The phone call in the middle of the night, the hospital, the moment my mum collapsed in the hallway, the funeral service where I couldn't stop shaking, the years afterward, where every Christmas was just a reminder of what we'd lost. I could remember living without her. I could remember my parents falling apart. I could remember wishing I died instead of her. I could remember 5 years of grief so heavy I could barely breathe under the weight of it. And when the memory released me, Lily was sitting right there in front of me, alive and healthy and confused about why I was staring at her like I'd seen a ghost. Garrett, what's wrong? I couldn't speak. I was looking at my sister, my living, breathing sister, and I could still remember burying her. I could still remember standing at her grave. "Garrett, you're scaring me." "I'm sorry," I managed to say. "I'm so sorry. I need a minute." I stood up too fast and nearly knocked over the coffee table. My dad caught my arm. "That's it. You need to lie down. Something's not right." "I'm fine. I just need some air." "It's snowing outside. You can't go out there." But I was already moving toward the door, and nobody tried to stop me. I stumbled out onto the front porch and leaned against the railing, gulping down cold air. The memory of Lily's death was fading, but it was taking longer this time. I could still see her face in the casket. I could still feel the grief. And underneath it all was a creeping horror that was much worse than the false memories themselves. It was the presence. Opening the presence was doing this to me. I stood outside until my fingers went numb, then forced myself to go back inside. My family was huddled in the kitchen, talking in low voices. They stopped when they saw me. "Garrett, maybe we should call a doctor," my mom said. No doctors. I'm okay. I think I just need to not open any more presents for a bit." "That's fine, honey. Whatever you need." But then the doorbell rang, and I heard my aunt's voice in the hallway, and I knew more family meant more presents, and the dread in my chest grew even heavier. My aunt and uncle came in with my cousin Brooke, all of them carrying bags of gifts. They added them to the pile under the tree, and I watched the stack grow taller. Each wrapped box a potential doorway to a life I'd never lived. "Garrett, Merry Christmas." Brooke hugged me, and I tried to act normal, even though nothing felt normal anymore. We all sat around the living room, and the present opening continued. I tried to avoid taking any more gifts, but it was impossible. Every few minutes, someone would hand me another box, another bag, and I'd have no choice but to open it. Each time I touched the wrapping paper, another life crashed into me. A life where I never left Midland, where I worked at the lumber mill, just like my dad and his dad before him. I could remember 20 years of the same routine, the same small town, the same feeling that I'd missed out on something bigger, a life where I'd gone to a different college and married my high school girlfriend. I could remember the proposal, the wedding, the apartment we'd shared. I could remember loving someone I'd actually barely known in this reality. A life where I'd become a teacher, like I'd always planned before switching to business. I could remember standing in front of classrooms, grading papers, shaping young minds. Years of a career I never pursued. A life where my dad had died of a heart attack 5 years ago. I could remember the funeral, the grief, the way my mum had never fully recovered. The memories were piling up, layer upon layer, until I couldn't tell which ones were real anymore. Had my parents gotten divorced? No, that didn't happen. But I could remember it so clearly. Was Lily alive? Yes, she was sitting right there. But I could also remember burying her. My family was getting more worried. I kept mixing things up, mentioning events that never happened, contradicting myself. My mum asked if I'd hit my head recently. My dad suggested carbon monoxide poisoning. Brooke wondered if I was on drugs. But I knew the truth, even if I couldn't explain it. Each present was showing me a different version of my life, a different choice I could have made, a different path I could have taken, and they all felt equally real. Garrett, This one's from me." Brooke handed me a small box. I didn't want to open it. I was terrified of what I'd see. But everyone was watching, and I couldn't keep refusing without looking completely insane. I peeled back the paper with shaking hands. This memory was different from the others. Instead of experiencing it from the inside, I was watching it from the outside, like a movie. I saw myself at 10 years old, standing at a crossroads. Not a literal crossroads, but a moment of choice. I could see the decision branching out in front of me like a tree, every choice creating a new branch, a new reality, every branch splitting into more branches, infinite variations spiraling out in every direction. I saw myself choosing to try out for Little League, and a whole life bloomed from that choice. I saw myself choosing not to, and a different life unfolded. I saw 1,000 small moments, each one creating a new version of Garrett, a new version of reality. And I realized, with a horror that made my stomach turn, that I was somehow seeing all of them at once. Every decision I'd ever made had created a branch. Every path I didn't take still existed somewhere. And something about this Christmas, something about these presents, had cracked open my perception and let me see them all simultaneously. But there was something else in the vision, something that made everything worse. Between the branches, in the spaces where one reality ended and another began, there was darkness, not just an absence of light, but an absence of everything, a void where reality itself broke down. And in that void, something was watching. It wasn't a creature or a monster. It was worse than that. It was nothing, a gap in existence. And I had the terrible understanding that I had glimpsed something humans were never meant to see. "Garrett, what's wrong? You look like you're going to pass out." I came back to reality with a gasp. My whole family was staring at me. The present in my hands was just a book, a normal book about fly fishing. I need to stop opening presents." "Okay, honey, that's okay. Just sit down." But there was still one present left. One more box sitting under the tree with my name on it. And even though every part of me was screaming to leave it alone, I knew I was going to open it. I had to. The same way you have to look at a car crash when you drive by, even though you don't want to see what's inside. I picked up the last present. It was small and light, wrapped in silver paper. "Garrett, you don't have to open that now," my mom said, but her voice sounded far away. I tore off the paper. The memories hit me all at once. Not one life, not two, but all of them. Thousands of versions of Garrett existing in thousands of realities, all colliding in my head at the same moment. I saw myself dying in a car crash at 23. I saw myself living to 90, surrounded by grandchildren I'd never meet. I saw myself becoming a doctor, a janitor, a musician, a homeless man, a CEO, a criminal, a hero, a nobody. I saw myself making every possible choice, living every possible life, experiencing every possible outcome. I saw myself happy. I saw myself miserable. I saw myself successful. I saw myself broken. I saw every version of Garrett that could have possibly existed, all at the same time. And my brain couldn't hold it all. The boundaries between the lives started dissolving. I couldn't tell which memories were mine and which belonged to other versions of me. Did I grow up in this house? Or was it a different house? Is Lily my sister? Or am I an only child? Did my parents get divorced? Or are they still together? Garrett, say something. I looked at my mom, but I couldn't remember if she was real. I could remember 100 different versions of her. Divorced, widowed, happy, sad, loving, distant. Which one was actually sitting in front of me? Did we used to live on Maple Street? What? No, honey. We've always lived here. But I could remember Maple Street. I could remember a different house, a different childhood. It felt just as real as this one. Did Lily was there ever a car accident? My sister's face went pale. What are you talking about? I stood up too fast, and the room spun. I need to go outside. Garrett, you can't go out there. You're not making sense. But I was already moving. I pushed past my family, ignoring their protests, and stumbled out the front door into the snow. The cold air hit me like a slap, but it didn't clear my head. Nothing could clear my head. The memories were still there, all of them, fighting for space in my brain. I walked out into the yard and turned back to look at the house. The warm lights glowed in the windows. I could see my family inside, gathered around the Christmas tree, probably talking about calling an ambulance. Was this my house? I could remember living here my entire childhood, but I could also remember a dozen other houses in a dozen other towns. I could remember lives where this house didn't exist at all. I could remember 100 Christmases in this living room, and I could remember 100 more in completely different places, with completely different people. Which one was real? Which Garrett was actually me? The snow was falling harder now, and I was only wearing a sweater, but I couldn't make myself go back inside because I didn't know anymore. I didn't know if that was my house, my family, my life. It looked right. It felt right. But so did all of the other versions I could remember. I stood there in the falling snow, caught between infinite versions of myself, unable to choose which one to believe in. And the worst part, the part that made everything so much worse, was knowing that somewhere between all those versions, in the darkness where one reality ended and another began, something was still watching. Something that existed in the spaces between choices, between lives, between moments. I'd seen it when I opened that last present. I'd felt it looking back at me from the void. And I knew, with a certainty that transcended all the different versions of my life, that it had always been there, waiting in the gaps, watching every choice, every branch, every possible version of every possible life. We were never meant to see it, never meant to know it was there. But now I did, and I couldn't unsee it. I'm still standing in the yard. The snow is piling up on my shoulders. My family is calling to me from the door, begging me to come inside, but I can't move because I don't know which house to go back to. I don't know which life is mine. I can remember all of them. I am all of them, and I am none of them. Every time I opened a present, I remembered a life I never lived, and now, standing here in the snow, I can't remember which life I actually did live. The lights are still glowing in the windows. My family is still calling my name. But I don't know if they're real. I don't know if I'm real. And in the darkness between all the lives I could have lived, something is still watching. Merry Christmas.